Whispers in the industry. Jimin overshadowing Jungkook? The whispers are louder than ever. Has Jimin, once seen as the quiet backbone of BTS, now stepped into a spotlight so blinding that even Jungkook, the group's golden magne, appears to be fading into the shadows? It is a question that fans, industry insiders, and even casual observers cannot ignore. When two of the most prominent figures in global pop culture suddenly seem caught in an invisible tug-of-war, the entire entertainment world pauses, listens, and speculates. What is really happening between Jimin and Jungkook? And why does the narrative of overshadowing continue to dominate the conversation? Jimin's rise has been nothing short of seismic. In recent months, his solo ventures have triggered an avalanche of attention, not just within the fanbase but across mainstream media outlets worldwide. His performances have been dissected for their emotional depth, his voice praised for its unique vulnerability, and his image hailed as both magnetic and disruptive to the usual framework of K-pop stardom. But beneath this celebration lies a sharper question. Is Jimin's unprecedented momentum creating a silent imbalance within the perception of BTS members, especially when compared to Jungkook, who for years has been regarded as the face of perfection? The industry thrives on comparison, and this rivalry, imagined or real, seems almost inevitable. Jungkook has long been labeled the standard-bearer of BTS. Flawless vocals, striking visuals, and an unshakable presence that earned him the title of Golden. Yet lately, discussions suggest that his aura is being tested. With Jimin's projects drawing global attention, there are claims that Jungkook's shine is dimming, not because of any lack of talent, but because the spotlight is currently angled towards someone else. For fans who have followed the group since its earliest days, this shift feels unsettling, almost like watching a carefully balanced scale suddenly tip in a new direction. Every new chart record, every emotional performance, every headline about Jimin seems to fuel the theory further. Why is his momentum so unstoppable, and why now? Analysts point to his ability to connect on a raw emotional level, something that cuts through the polished veneer of pop and feels deeply human. He has been described as both fragile and fearless, a paradox that audiences cannot look away from. Meanwhile, Jungkook's strengths, his technical perfection and global recognition, are being questioned in a subtle way, as if perfection itself has lost its edge against vulnerability. The whispers have transformed into louder debates across online communities. Some argue that the entire narrative is nothing more than manufactured tension designed to stir clicks, streams, and endless social media wars. Others insist there is a genuine imbalance that must be addressed. Why else would so many industry insiders and cultural commentators point out the Jimin effect as a force capable of altering even Jungkook's long-established dominance? Fans find themselves torn, some defending Jungkook's position as irreplaceable, others insisting that Jimin deserves the recognition he is finally receiving without it being framed as a rivalry. The emotional weight of this discussion is heavy because it forces fans to reflect on what it means to overshadow. Is it about numbers, streaming records, and sales charts? Or is it about cultural relevance, the ability to capture hearts at a specific moment in time? If it is the latter, then Jimin's current reign feels undeniable. He has become a symbol of something larger than music, a voice for vulnerability, a presence that carries both elegance and defiance. And yet, Jungkook's role as a global superstar remains intact, leaving us with the paradox of two forces colliding in the same arena. Adding to the intrigue is the noticeable absence of their shared moments together. In the past, Jimin and Jungkook's dynamic was often celebrated as one of the emotional anchors of BTS's bond. Lately, however, their appearances together seem rare, their interactions distant, and their paths more individual than collective. For fans, this lack of visible unity has only intensified suspicions. Are they truly drifting apart professionally? Or is this simply the natural evolution of two artists carving out individual legacies in a post-group spotlight? No official answers exist, and perhaps that is what makes this narrative so powerful. The silence itself becomes fuel. Every photograph where they are not standing side by side, every stage they do not share, every interview where their names are not mentioned together, all of it is interpreted, magnified, and discussed. This silence has become as loud as any statement could ever be. Where does this leave us? On one hand, Jungkook remains one of the most recognizable figures in global music, his name synonymous with excellence. On the other, Jimin is experiencing a cultural surge that feels unstoppable, his artistry cutting through layers of expectation and redefining what it means to stand out. The tension lies not in who is objectively better, but in the narrative that insists one must eclipse the other. In truth, both are navigating the complexities of fame, individuality, and legacy in ways that inevitably invite scrutiny. The industry thrives on such rivalries because they keep the audience engaged, but fans are left with a pressing question. Do they believe this overshadowing is real? Or is it merely a story crafted by the forces of media, marketing, and human fascination with conflict? It is a dilemma that demands reflection because the answer may reveal more about us, the consumers of this drama, than about the artists themselves. And so the whispers continue. They grow louder, more insistent, feeding a global conversation that refuses to die down. Is Jimin overshadowing Jungkook? Or are we witnessing two distinct journeys that the world insists on framing as competition? The truth may never be spoken outright, but the tension is undeniable, and until clarity emerges, the speculation will only deepen. For now, the stage is set not just for performances, but for the ongoing battle of perception, legacy, and the fragile balance between admiration and rivalry. The conversation surrounding Jimin and Jungkook refuses to disappear, yet with every new headline, the boundaries between fact and speculation grow more blurred. At this point, we must pause and ask, are we witnessing a genuine shift in artistic recognition, or are we merely consuming a carefully constructed narrative designed to provoke debate, division, and relentless attention? The stakes of this question are profound because it challenges us to reconsider not only the dynamics between two global superstars, but also the nature of modern media itself. When claims arise that Jimin is overshadowing Jungkook, what evidence truly supports this? Are the numbers on streaming platforms sufficient proof? Or are they themselves subject to manipulation by algorithms and selective promotion? Can viral clips on TikTok, trending posts on Twitter, or highly edited content on YouTube serve as reliable indicators of reality? Or do they instead reflect the biases of those who create and circulate them? And perhaps more disturbingly, are audiences complicit in amplifying narratives that may have little connection to truth, yet generate massive engagement precisely because they are framed as rivalry? The emotional intensity of these questions cannot be overstated. Fans are drawn into an almost gladiatorial arena, where every statistic, every performance, every moment of visibility is weighed and measured against the other. But should admiration for Jimin's recent momentum necessarily translate into suspicion about Jungkook's standing? Why must one be elevated at the expense of the other? Or is this very framing itself the product of an industry that thrives on polarization, sensationalism, and the illusion of conflict? It is no secret that the entertainment industry relies heavily on narratives that divide attention and provoke emotional investment. By casting Jimin and Jungkook as two sides of a competition, media outlets and online platforms ensure that audiences remain hooked, compelled to argue, defend, and speculate endlessly. But who truly benefits from this framing? Is it the artists themselves, who may suffer under the weight of unrealistic comparisons? Or is it the machinery of content circulation, which profits from every click, every repost, every argument carried out across digital landscapes? Consider the absence of definitive statements from the artists involved. Does their silence signify tension? Or is it simply the natural response of individuals who refuse to engage with baseless speculation? Yet silence in itself becomes a tool, interpreted as confirmation by some, denial by others, and mystery by all. Is this silence accidental? Or is it a deliberate strategy that sustains the aura of uncertainty? If so, what does this reveal about the way fame is managed and consumed in the 21st century? The sources feeding this narrative are diverse, yet rarely conclusive. Clips on TikTok highlight fleeting gestures, YouTube edits compile selective footage, Twitter threads weave speculative stories, and online blogs exaggerate fragments into sweeping claims. Can such fragmented, unverified material truly establish that one member is overshadowing the other? Or do these sources merely reflect a desire for spectacle, magnifying ambiguity until it becomes indistinguishable from fact? When faced with such overwhelming yet unreliable information, how should a rational observer respond? The challenge, then, lies in resisting the seductive pull of sensationalism. Readers and viewers alike must confront their own complicity in sustaining such narratives. Do we share these stories because we believe them, or because they spark an emotional reaction? Do we defend one artist against another because we see evidence of imbalance, or because conflict is easier to engage with than nuance? And crucially, do we pause to verify before reacting, or do we allow ourselves to be carried along by the momentum of speculation? Skepticism becomes not just advisable, but essential. For every claim that Jimin is overtaking Jungkook, we must ask, what is the source, what is the evidence, and what is the agenda behind its circulation? For every article, video, or thread that insists on rivalry, we must demand transparency. Is this journalism, or is this clickbait? Is this truth, or is this performance? Without such questions, we risk becoming passive consumers of narratives designed not to inform, but to manipulate. The deeper we explore this phenomenon, the more it reveals about us as an audience. Why do we so readily embrace the idea of conflict between artists who have built their success on unity and collaboration? Why does the prospect of rivalry attract more attention than the reality of mutual respect? And what does it say about our collective psychology that we seem to crave drama, even at the cost of distorting reality? Perhaps the true story here is not whether Jimin overshadows Jungkook, but whether we are willing to confront the ways in which our own appetites for spectacle sustain these divisive narratives. And so we return to the central provocation. Is this phenomenon real, or is it orchestrated? Is Jimin's rise an authentic reflection of his artistry, or is it inflated by a system that benefits from controversy? Is Jungkook's supposed decline an observable fact, or is it a convenient fiction that keeps fans engaged? Can we ever separate fact from fiction in an era where virality often carries more weight than veracity? Until these questions are answered with clarity, the debate will continue. But in the meantime, we urge every reader to resist the temptation of easy conclusions. Do not accept every headline as truth. Do not allow speculation to masquerade as evidence. Do not confuse popularity with fact. Instead, approach each claim with rigorous skepticism and ask yourself, who benefits from this story and at whose expense? The whispers in the industry may never cease, but your response to them can shift the balance. Will you accept these narratives at face value, or will you demand more? Will you allow speculation to dictate perception, or will you insist on truth over sensation? The choice rests not only with the media, but with you, the audience whose attention determines which stories thrive and which fade.